documentary put together by investigative journalist Anas Arimaya Anas is airing at the Accra International Conference Center. We'll take you there live pretty shortly. We'll also be hearing from a lawyer on what has happened today. You remember that today, when the story first broke, the Jubilee House released a statement sacking the Minister of State of the Finance Ministry, Charles Boahen, but also referring his conduct to the special prosecutor. So really, what will the special prosecutor be investigating, and what charge could be preferred against him? We'll explore that pretty shortly. We'll also hear from the anti-corruption campaigners who are taking a keen interest in this development. We are all over this for you with multiple angles to follow tonight, and you want to stay with us. We start tonight by going through for you the essential quotes from what we know is captured in this documentary, this explosive documentary that many are now queuing to watch at the International Conference Center. Ketsi Anas Arimaya Anas himself, who in an article this morning published some of the details. My colleague Kojo Brace joins me in the studio. What we're going to do, Kojo, is simply focus on the direct quotes in the Anas article today. And we expect that will be reflected in what people will be watching from 5 p.m. Tonight. And so let's lay the foundation for this. So in the article, Anas says they met Charles Boahen allegedly in the United Arab Emirates in a hotel room. He had come in with businessmen who were posing as businessmen who wanted to do business in Ghana, and they wanted to meet the vice president. And a lot transpired. Let's start with the first essential quote attributed to Charles Boahen, who, by the way, has today been sacked.
Okay, so the quote is, you mean like appearance fees and stuff? I mean, he himself, the vice president, if you give him some $200,000 or something as a token, as a thank you, appreciation, that's fine. He's not really like that. All he needs is to worry about his campaign money in 2020. Charles Boahen revealed.
And then there's another quote here that says, quote, so if you come with 3 or 4 projects and you say, we are doing this, we are doing that, we are prepared to write a check for this, write a check for that. You see, he has a big family. The vice president has about 5, 6 brothers and sisters. So what will happen is, if you tell him, the vice president, that, hey, look, I want to do this project. Do you have somebody that I can work with? That you will introduce me to. And then he, the vice president, will use that to immediately put his brother to work with us on a particular project. That's how we would be able to work with him, the vice president. You know what I mean? You see what I'm saying? And the development of his business. That's another quote from him. And then there's another quote from Boahen.
Yeah, says the president himself is also like my uncle. He was my father's campaign manager when my father was running for office. So he will also come in. But you know that at the operational level, the vice president is the one who handles everything. So he's the guy we should go and meet.
Okay, they're still talking about the vice president there. And then Boahen comes saying another quote, excellent, excellent. I was just telling Isaac, we don't know who Isaac is, but it's in the quote, that I have to introduce you to the vice president. The vice president is a very good man. And he used to be the deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. So if I tell him you want to come and open a bank, he will prefer it that way. As soon as you can, I have to introduce you because, even if I'm going to handle something like this, he is somebody that I have to bring in at some level, even if not the whole details, because, it is important that you get to know him. That's another quote from him.
So after the investors telling him that they wanted to invest around 500 million, he comes in again.
So the investor wanted to invest $500 million
US dollars. Okay. Yes. He comes in again to say, okay, no problem. Okay. Let me think about that because I think we can manage something. Okay. This is tough. Sheikh, that's the right address, right? What should I call you? Okay, Sheikh, 20%, he finally said.
Okay. So, and if you read the description to this quote, Anas Arimaya Anas in his article says that's him charging 20%, an amount of 20% on the 500 million that will be invested, to him as a commission for his service. Okay, and then there's another quote here. He said, "Let me give you an example." So then, according to Anas, he goes into then also offer other ways in which he will be paid.
Yeah,
and then he says this quote: Let me give you an example. I own myself a real estate company. So we are into real estate. So we just finished an office block. I don't want to make money that I haven't worked for. I believe in working for money. If let's say we want to do affordable housing projects, which would cost $50 million, you can come in and share that with me. If you bring the whole 50 million for the project, you can earmark 20% of that 50 million as mine. And whatever returns I make on that 20%, I keep. Or you put the money to work and give me 10% finance fee, and then give me share of whatever returns on the project as well. We normally would make a return of 25% returns, 30% dollar equity rate when we do projects like that. So let's up to it. So it's up to you and how you are comfortable with and how you want to work, he said also.
Okay. So then he tried to lobby for the supposed entity to buy a debt instrument bond that was not successful. Now, quote is, but you are not allowed to buy any debt instrument. We issue bonds. We just issued those energy bonds. Is he allowed to? Can you buy bonds?
So that's him also getting them to see if they can buy some other things.
Exactly.
And then he ends by telling us how the meeting ended. Allegedly, in a NASA's article, before him was a table, and on the table was bundles of dollars. And he asked if he could take that away
into a
polythene bag. And the bundles were they come with a polythene bag, to the polythene bag allegedly, and he packs the money in it. And he was told that that's for shopping, and then he went off. Now, in this same documentary, though, there's another element of this that the article also talks about, and that there was also a legal practitioner who is not a public officer holder in a separate meeting that they also met. Anas says a senior solicitor and a traditional chief said he was not in a position to control or suggest a package for the president of Ghana, that's the president, Nana-Addo, and the vice, Dr. Boahen Bawumia, in a meeting in a hotel room, saying, United Arab Emirates. But the lawyer, Anas says, told Tiger Eye investigators who pose as a business tycoons that he cannot manipulate the president to do his bidding. However, he will try to help them have access to the president. And his vice and some influences to do their business. What's the quote associated with this? With this this individual who was a legal practitioner, a legal practitioner who is not a public office holder, in a separate meeting that they also met.
So the quote says, "I'll try. I'll do my best." You see, we are talking of the president, so I cannot tell you that I can control the president, but I can tell you that I'll do my best to ensure that whatever you want shall be done. You see, I think it's a bit too early for me to start talking about these things. I mean, talk about the package for the president, etc. For me, sir, money is important, but money is not everything. It is the relationship. When we have a good relationship, money will come. So don't worry about the package. We can always do that. You are a good man, so let's leave that one out. But in Ghana, when you set up business and you engage local partners, you, the investor, you must retain at least 75%, which gives you the control. At least, let's say, speaking in respect of the bank, he advised. He also said he was instrumental in the appointment of Edu Boahen.
Okay, so that's a quote Anas and his team are attributing to this person they describe as a legal practitioner who is not a public office holder, who they met in a separate meeting. I want to take you now to the Accra International Conference Center, where my colleague Kojo Yang is part of, I believe, a queue of people waiting to watch this. Kojo, has it started yet?
Actually, it's about to start any minute now, Evans. The ambience inside the room is already set for the airing. They've switched the lights off. The seats are almost all full. Before the lights went off, I caught a glimpse of people from academia, from civil society, journalists, and masses of people from the general public who are now even more interested in this documentary than before, following the revelations of the involvement of the Minister of State at the Finance Ministry, or former Minister of State at the Finance Ministry. So the room is full, the lights are dim, there is an image of a Ghana flag on the screen, and any moment now, that clip is going to start rolling.
In his sight of Anas himself, in his mask?
Not yet. As you can imagine, he's likely to be snuck into the auditorium while the lights are dim, and he will probably locate himself in a safe corner until it's time for him to reveal himself, probably at the end of the screening. At the moment, there's no sight of him. The MC has announced the start of the clip, but these are the quiet moments before the tape starts to roll.
And Kojo, will come to you at the end of this. We don't know yet how long this is.
Not yet, but we're expecting it to last longer than an hour.
You want to stay with us for that? Kojo will watch, brief us, because the identities of more individuals are at stake here in terms of the lawyer in question, the chief, and etc. Other people who had been mentioned in this article that was published today. My Samson Lada Yenini is a lawyer, also a colleague here, a host of Newsfile, joins us on the telephone line right now. Hello, Samson.
Evan.
Great to have you, Samson. And Samson, we know that the president referred this to the special prosecutor for action. I'll get your thoughts on what possibly the special prosecutor could be looking into as far as the law is concerned. But first, I want you to listen to Gideon Boahen, who, of course, is the spokesperson. Dr. Gideon Boahen is a spokesperson for the vice president, who has been giving an official response to the revelations today. You know, the vice president was mentioned. And something I think that will be interesting to you. He reveals in this interview that the vice president is tonight meeting with his own lawyers and is considering his own options, legal options. This is Dr. Gideon Boahen.
Well, you need to ask yourself when I was contacted to speak to the allegations earlier. You understand? So it's just yesterday that my attention was drawn to this video, and I gave the response that I gave. And we haven't seen the content of the video. What we have seen is the statement or an article that was put on the social media page by Anas Aremeya Anas, following which I had personal conversations with Anas Aremeya Anas to find out from him if what has been written on social media is coming from him. And he confirmed, yes, it is true, and it is not substantially different from what is in the video. So then we had something to respond to, and that's the basis on which the vice president issued the statement.
Has Charles Eddo Boahen approached the vice president's office with any business proposals?
Not that as I know.
There are no business proposals that have come to the vice president's office through Charles Eddo Boahen.
I'm not aware of any such thing. The government is big. Eddo Boahen is a minister of state, and so I am not privy to every conversation that he has with any actor in government. But as far as I know, there's a protocol that goes on in the vice president's office. If anybody wants appointments for anyone, it's either through me, his personal aide, spokesperson, advisor, or through the executive secretary, Augustine, or through the calendar secretary, Lizzie. Any other person who wants appointment, no matter what, will have to come through us. If it is a letter that is written, the letter has to be responded to by Augustine. And so there's a formalized process that things go. But these persons in question have never come to the vice president's office or house to have a meeting with the vice president through Charles Eddo Boahen. And so I can say categorically that there is nothing like that. The vice president had not had any meeting through Charles or any other person with some people who say they want to establish bank in this country. And I'm happy that as far as what Anas put out is concerned, and that is what is going to be in the video, there is no evidence or trace in the video or what Anas put out that suggests that subsequent to Mr. Charles Eddo Boahen's conversation, they followed up to come and see the vice president with the mentioned businessmen. There has never been anything like that.
Now, the article quotes Charles Eddo Boahen as saying, and I quote, "But you know that at the operational level, the vice president is the one who handles everything. So he is the guy we should go and meet." Can you confirm that the vice president is the operational lead when it comes to the banking sector and investment?
This is laughable. How can a vice president be in charge of the banking operations in the country whilst there's a supervising or regulatory body and there's a finance ministry that is directly responsible for this? I see some of these comments, if they are true, to be, political grandstanding, and I don't think Charles was being smart enough. I wouldn't fault him much because I haven't seen the video myself, but if what we have seen or read is anything to go by, I see an act of indiscretion and maybe embellishment of somebody's thoughts and minds, because there's an executive president. The vice president is also playing the supporting role, and the vice president's role is always determined by what the president wants him to do constitutionally. And so some of these comments as this person is the most important thing or the person in charge of operations, I haven't seen that rule anywhere that a certain vice president is in charge of operations.
And that's, you had there is Gideon Boahen, who is Dr. Gideon Boahen in the office of the vice president. There's more from him pretty shortly where he addresses how the vice president has been reacting to this and the meetings that he's taking with his lawyers to deal with this matter. Something is with me now. Something, so the president today, when he took the decision to sack Charles Boahen, referred it to the special prosecutor. The assumption there is that, he may have broken one law or the other. I mean, what really, based on your reading of the law, could the special prosecutor possibly be investigating?
Well, Evans, to go straight to the point without belaboring any matter, if you look at our Criminal and Other Offences Act, the 29, as amended, if you look at section 252, and that's where I suspect this will fall on. I don't know how the special prosecutor may think, but from what I see, this may be what will come to play. And that provision is headed accepting or giving bribe to influence a public officer or juror. So you are either accepting or you are giving a bribe to influence a public officer or a juror. And section 251, subsection 1, as amended, says a person shall not accept or agree or offer to accept a valuable consideration under the pretense of having unduly influenced or being able or agreeing to influence any other person in respect of functions as a public officer or a juror. In this respect, the person named is a public officer without any doubt. If you call him, he's occupying a political office by appointment. He clearly, from what we have been told and we have seen, was offering to accept. You remember in the interaction, as recorded, he talks about being offered, 20% here and there. He says he doesn't want to, he wants money that he has worked for. That's from work, isn't it? So in that regard, he was agreeing to accept, or he was offering to accept a valuable consideration with the knowledge, and that is what he used to influence, so to speak, to influence or being able to influence the things that whoever it is was seeking. And I've heard already being suggested that the president is the one making the reference to the special prosecutor. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. If you read the Special Prosecutor Act, it's very clear what the mandate of the special prosecutor is, particularly in Section 2. And then when you go forward to Section 79, it talks about this particular provision of the law that I have referred to. That is Section 252, and including 253 as well, that the special prosecutor, has a mandate that includes offenses in this direction.
But
and then in the special prosecutor's Special Office of Special Prosecutor Operations Regulation 2018, if you read Section 1, Section 2, you would find, and even Section 3, you would find how anybody is allowed to submit a complaint. So if the president is the one who is making the reference will be treated as a complaint. And the special prosecutor is empowered by all the laws that we have so far to act on them.
But coming back to the possible offense, there is no evidence yet, and maybe the full documentary may prove otherwise, but from the article at least, this is best was an attempt. As we've heard, the Guido Baku say this is political grandstanding, and the man himself, who the quotes attributed to him, was, yes, suggesting $200,000 is what you need to pay to see the president, and yes, I'll charge you 20% on the $500 million, but there's no evidence that was actually paid to him. Wouldn't that matter in any the application of the law if the special prosecutor, plans to take this up?
I'll be interested to see and hear what the special prosecutor will have to say. But in our law, in our criminal jurisprudence, sometimes attempt is sufficient. You don't need to have consummated the crime. Attempt may be sufficient in what we refer to as inchoate offense. So you can make an attempt, and that can constitute sufficient grounds for which a prosecution can be mounted and mounted successfully. Look, corruption is difficult to fight, and as it's understood, it is the misuse of entrusted power for private gain. So,
yeah, but don't you have to prove that there has actually been gain at the end of this? Because this could boil down to somebody just running his mouth, right, in a meeting, claiming that I can introduce you and I want to charge you this. But if that's where it ends, I mean, what can you hold him to?
Yeah, we have been here before having to, in the Kwesi matter, similar, defenses were raised. But as you and I know, the matter is live in the court. So I can only say let's wait and see, because we have seen him also post a tweet and say that he's going to cooperate with investigations and is interested in seeing how it ends. But like I mentioned earlier, sometimes you don't have to complete the offense. Sometimes the attempt itself is punishable. It is the reason that I suppose we are presently talking about the 95 MPs who have confessed that there was someone who attempted to bribe them. The question of the attempt is sufficient enough to proceed on. And that's why the special prosecutor has also taken up that matter upon the petition by Occupy Ghana to investigate that matter. If in the end there could not be a matter to prosecute, I doubt the special prosecutor would have accepted, that complaint and commenced investigations in it when he knows that the end game will be that it will not bring up anything. In one case, some precedent may not be exactly direct. In one case, our court said that the offense of accepting a valuable consideration to influence the public officer is committed whether the valuable consideration is accepted by the official who made the demand for himself or for another. But I believe that we can only wait and see.
And very finally, something very quickly on another aspect of that had come up is that this letter announcing the sacking of the Minister of State was under the authority of the President. But the President is out of the jurisdiction and the Vice President is acting. A suggestion that some had made and said, well, if the President is not here and the Vice President is acting, then that decision should have been taken by the Vice President. What do you say about that legally?
If you have heard some people fault the Supreme Court when President Kukwasa went with the case about absence from Ghana does not mean inability to perform your functions, as president, you will understand that in this day and age, the president is not in Ghana, but that does not mean that he is incapable of performing his functions while he's away. So he could obviously, he would have given instruction that this is what ought to be done. And when you are acting, you cannot be taking such a decision without reference to the president, at least. This is a substantive major decision to take, to sack or dismiss an appointee of the president. You cannot, in your acting capacity, so much take that decision. You can't. And like I said, well, we're in a virtual world now. The president, as we understand, he made a call to him. He spoke to the minister and told him that this was a decision that he was going to take. It's as simple as that. And his executive secretary and various other officials are within the presidency, and he can instruct them to do what has been done.
Something grateful for that point on the law as far as this is concerned, with the developing story today about the sacking of the Minister of State, the Finance Minister Charles Eddo Boahen. That documentary is currently premiering at the International Conference Center. There is more on this. We're hearing from the Parliament now, reactions coming from Parliament to this. We'll also hear more from Dr. Gideon Boaku, who has been detailing the Vice President's desire to ensure that all options are explored in punishing Charles Eddo Boahen if indeed he's made the pronouncement attributed to him. News Night starts right now.